500 years of football expertise and the future of the game. Powered by SūmerSports come together, breaking down the big board with the guys that were in the room. Today on The Evaluation, we are joined by SūmerSports President of Football Operations, John Idzik. Also on the panel is SūmerSports Senior Cornerback Evaluator and the NFL Alumni Academy's Director of Player Personnel, Jeff Robinson. We're bringing it all together with the most sophisticated sports technology ever engineered. This is The Evaluation, Running Backs. Once upon a time, the running back was the heartbeat of the offense. Now, he's an endangered species. In today's NFL, it's not enough to run between the tacklers. You've got to catch, block, survive. Scouts don't just look for yards anymore. They look for value, versatility, durability. Because the truth is, the shelf life's short, and every carry could be the last big payday. Welcome to The Evaluation. I'm your host, Ettore Ewen, and today we're talking all things running backs. And I have the distinct honor and pleasure of sitting down with John Idzik and Jeff Robinson. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having us, Ettore.
Of course. And I have to say, as a football geek, the ability to sit down with you two and talk ball is something that I'm very honored for. So I'm excited for this.
Awesome, man.
John, we're going to talk about a number of running backs from this year's class that we think are elite. Who's your first running back that you want to discuss?
I'm going to discuss one of the top running backs in this year's class, in my opinion, and he's from Notre Dame. Can you guess who that is? It's not the Heisman runner-up. It is Jadarian Price. Jadarian Price, to me, has all the components that you're looking for in an NFL back. He has size, elusiveness, he's got vision, he's got instincts, but his calling cards are his acceleration and long speed. He is a difference maker that way. You're going to see it in his production. Despite the fact that he worked in the shadows of Jeremiyah Love, he was still productive as a kick returner. Didn't get involved as much in the pass game, but as a runner, inside, outside, there are few players that their play speed matches their clock speed, matches their analytic speed. This is one of them. This guy is flat out fast. Jadarian has very good vision. He has size. He has a good catch radius. Jadarian has very reliable hands. Outstanding contact balance. He runs with a forward lean. Good bend in his waist for a high-cut guy.
I was going to ask, did the lack of starts at all bother you for Price?
Normally, you'd kind of question it a little bit, but he platooned with the Heisman runner-up. Jeremiyah Love was a pretty good football player.
That he is. Jeff, who do you have for us?
I have Jeremiyah Love, actually. Thanks for mentioning him. Yeah. I think he's probably the top running back in this year's class. He's got elite feet, he's got speed, he's got agility. You'll see him hurdling guys in a lot of situations, and he makes plays in space. He can catch the ball very well. He returns kickoffs, he returns punts. So there's not a lot he can't do. He's got excellent eyes, he's got excellent vision. He has outstanding elusiveness to get away from defenders in small areas. He's just a talented overall game breaker. But I also think he's a guy that a lot of coaches will have to decide if he's a true first rounder, because in the modern game, there haven't been many first rounders in the last few years. But I think he's one of those guys who could easily fit into that group of first round talents.
Jeff, would you say he's one of the more polished, prepared backs all around?
Both of the two Notre Dame running backs are very polished, very prepared. I think it helped both of them that they alternated. When you talked about the fact that one didn't or did start, I think it helped both of them in their production overall, and I think that will help them going forward into the pros. But Jeremiyah is a definite game breaker. He's the guy to me that can slip into the first round comfortably.
A lot of love for Jeremiyah Love.
No question about it. I don't know how he did that little thing every time he scored, but but he did it a lot.
A lot of scoring. I love it. All right, folks. It is time to talk to our SūmerSports data analyst and football integration lead, Sam Bruckhouse. Sam, how we living?
Man, as a Notre Dame alum, Ettore, this is great. Both of these guys are awesome. They're going to go in the top rounds of the draft, and I got to watch them play all year. But more importantly, the AI got to watch them as well. In terms of the analytics, Jeremiyah Love is the premier back here. Why is that the case? He has a perfect 10, top prospect in the historicals in two things, and that is breaking tackles and getting yards after contact, and that is those explosive plays. The scouts mentioned it. He can do it all the time, and that projects to do well at the next level. Also, very speedy. You look at Price, he's more of a quality back. He can kind of do it all. The thing that we're a little worried about is the pass game, as John highlights. So in the case of these two prospects, I really think this is an I meets the AI. We have Jeremiyah Love as a guy who is the full package, can really blow it out of the water, and has those perfect 10 traits. And then you have a guy like Jadarian Price, who's more of a 7 guy, a quality back who can slot in a second or third round, really make a difference for these NFL teams. And so it's gonna be really exciting to see where these guys go, because the data projects that these two guys are gonna be some of the better backs in the draft.
Thank you, Sam. John, we have a lot more prospects to cover. Who do you have next?
I have EJ Emmett Johnson. He is a little bit different mold than we're talking about with the two Golden Domers. He's shorter in stature, compact build, has excellent lateral agility and quickness. He is a determined runner. He will finish strong. Despite his size, he's got lower leg strength, good drive. He burrows more than just innate power. He's a gamer. Emmett has progressively been more productive in his time at Nebraska. You know, he went for over 1,400 yards this year, had 46 receptions. He'll do anything you ask him to do. He's just not quite as explosive as the Notre Dame backs we just discussed.
He's an interesting talent to me because I've watched him, because he's from Minnesota, such as myself. So I've seen him for a long time run the ball. When he went to Nebraska, he wasn't highly recruited, but he's a hard worker. And he's one of those guys that, despite his lean stature, he likes having the ball. The more work that he gets, the better he produces. And so you see that in his play, and it showed up a lot at the end of last year when their quarterback got hurt. The more times he touched the ball, the more effective he became. Whatever team gets him, I think they'll be happy because of the fact that he does work so hard and he's willing to learn.
He would grind out yards. He'd run inside, outside. He's got lateral quickness. He can spin off blocks. He's got excellent contact balance, and you'll see that in his. He's just not perhaps as explosive, like I said, as some other backs.
Jeff, who do you have next?
My next guy is Jonah Coleman from the University of Washington. He's probably the one guy that reminds me of his position coach more than anybody. Now, his position coach is Scotty Graham, who we had in Minnesota. And actually, Scotty called me when he signed him, and he said, wait till you see this guy. And so then all of a sudden, I'm at Jonah's first game when he was at the University of Arizona, and he lines up at fullback, he lines up at tailback. He's built, you know, like a sawed-off barrel, but he's very explosive. Hands, he has outstanding hands. He's very soft-spoken, he's very polite. But when he plays, you always see the explosiveness. He's a one-cut downhill runner. You know, he likes to lay the boom on people. You know, he's definitely more the hammer than he is the nail, but there's nothing that he can't do. Now, he's a fast guy? Not necessarily. He's quick. He's got great vision. He's got great patience going into the hole, but he can run the inside zones. He can run the outside zones. And again, he always reminds you that he's there when he finishes plays. So he's a guy that is probably not in that upper tier as far as talent goes, but he's going to be a very solid pro for years to come just because he's strong, he's durable, and he can play for a long time.
Does that lack of elite speed worry you at all on the next level?
Not to me, no, because in the pro game, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of 40-yard runs. The key is, can you get the 4-yard runs? You know, we had a running back who always said, if you need 4, I can get you 4. If you need 8, I can get you 4.
So is that Scotty Graham?
That was also Scotty Graham. Yeah. So the theory is, if you keep tacking on those 4-yard runs, you're moving the chains. And that's what he'll be. You know, those guys they're not easy to find. And when you find them, you don't get rid of them real fast because their role is always significant in the things that you're trying to do.
Like you said, Jeff, he's built like a fire plug, and it shows in his play. He's just a grinder.
Thank you both. Sam, take us on our next deep dive.
Yeah, so at SūmerSports, what we love to do is blend the I with the AI. So a lot of the stuff the guys are saying really tracks in the AI. I want to highlight 2 things in particular. With Johnson, he is one of the last guys in this class to have a certified blue chip trait. He is an 8 in power running. What does that mean? We are tracking where the players are geographically on the field. And when there's 8 or more people in the box and 3 yards to go, those gotta have it situations, Emmett Johnson is a guy that you want in that scenario. Let's take it over to Coleman. Something that we really liked that wasn't really mentioned was his ability to contribute in the passing game. Jeff said he had great hands. He does have that ability to be versatile, kind of move all over the field and make an impact at the passing game. I think teams are really gonna like that. The problem with these 2 guys is they are both 4s or less in their explosivity and their ability to create after contact. That is the difference between the Price and the Loves and the Johnsons and the Colemans in this draft.
Appreciate you, Sam. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back to you one more time. John, can you take us through your final player that you want to evaluate?
Sure. I think I want to discuss Nick Singleton from Penn State. Nick had kind of a yo-yo career. In fact, he burst onto the scene as a super freshman at Penn State and rushing for over 900 yards. And Nick is one of those guys, he's going to go 220 plus, and he has legitimate speed. And I think that's going to be backed up, of course, with our analytics as well. He is a little bit more of an upright off-tackle runner. Sees it, hits it, has an excellent acceleration. And again, once he hits top gear, he's tough to track down. He's just not going to be as shifty as an Emmett or as elusive as a Jadarian or Jeremiyah. But once he hits the open field, he can take it the distance. But size-speed combination, running downhill, momentum, those are real positive factors going to the next level.
And how do you weigh his 2025? I know for Penn State as a whole, it was disappointing, but Nick didn't quite get the production we would have expected in 2025. How do you weigh that?
He kind of had an on-again, off-again type career. Freshman and junior years were spikes. Last year, he split time with Kayton Allen, and I think that had some factor into it. But again, it's the style of play. You mentioned the coaching situation. They had a midseason coaching change. But I think Nick was the outside perimeter, off-tackle, home run hitter. His production was more a function of sharing time than anything else.
Jeff, who do you have as your last back?
Noah Whittington, Oregon. 6-year senior. He started out at Western Kentucky. Not the biggest guy. He's had some injuries throughout his career, but a very productive player. Not a consistent starter at Oregon, but lightning in a bottle is kind of how you could describe him. As a kick returner, as a back, as a receiver, kind of a spark plug in essence is the way I looked at him, because whenever he was on the field and he got the ball, the spark happened. Very good hands. His center of gravity is low. He plays behind his pads. You'll see him actually run over some people despite his stature. And you'll also see him run under people a lot of times because of his stature. He has great balance. You'll see him run out of piles where there's 3 or 4 different players holding on to him. So he's one of those guys that can always make a play in any different situation. He's just not the biggest guy, so you don't want to run him inside on a consistent basis. When he's on the field, he makes plays.
You may say size and durability, but this guy will rush punts for you off the edge. He'll return kicks. He'll pass protect, although he is small and will get pushed. He can be productive in the pass game, so he offers a lot.
He had the ACL, I think, in 23, and also had some injuries this past season. Is that a red flag for you at all?
It's a level of concern that you have to look at, but his productivity also outweighs a lot of those concerns. I mean, that knee injury was 2 years ago, so when I look at a guy from 2 years ago with the way modern technology is, I don't have any qualms with that.
Thank you, Jeff. Sam, put your scuba gear on and take us on one final deep dive, please.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff that I'm hearing over here, and I think it kind of applies to running backs as a whole. Number one, year-to-year production is very variable, not only in college, but also in the pros for running backs. And as a result, that's why we've kind of seen them go down draft boards in recent years. There's no better example of that than Nick Singleton. We saw him in his early career be able to put up some of those blue chip type traits, but this year he had some 2s in our analytical traits. That is not something you want to see from a top tier back. It's going to be interesting to see how teams approach his production profile, because at the end of the day, if he has those high level traits, that could pop out in the right scenario. And that brings me to Whittington. There's so much context around these running backs, and it shows up in the data. Is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? Whittington is a guy who had a lot of quality traits for a down consensus big board guy. So when you see that, that could mean that he could be, an undrafted free agent, late day 3 guy who can really make an impact. And we see that every year. So Whittington could very well be, because of his 7 traits that we've seen, a guy who can contribute immediately despite being a late round pick.
Thank you, Sam. Now, there's still a ton of talent left on this board. Let's kick it to SūmerSports senior analyst Sean Syed for some rapid fire evaluations.
It's the lightning round. Kayton Allen is a straight-ahead north-south runner with good vision and balance. He finds extra yards and can be a positive in short yardage situations. Klaiborne attacks the line of scrimmage and has a second gear in space. His shiftiness gives him chunk gain potential. Mike Washington Jr. is a downhill runner with good agility. His balance and speed help him bounce runs and spin in space. Adam Randall is a big running back with wide receiver play in his background. He can be hard to tackle because of his power at the point of attack. Roman Hemby is a speedy back that can drive his legs. He's scrappy in pass protection and has some special teams traits. CJ Donaldson is a straight-ahead runner with adequate power. He is a hard hitter that is happy to run through you.
Earlier, I sat down with SūmerSports CEO Larissa Horton. Here's our next segment, the SAI Check, powered by SūmerSports. So Larissa, so many football fans are so used to just watching the running backs and the wide receivers, but as a former defensive lineman, I want to know if Sumer AI can address the offensive and defensive linemen.
We watch everyone, and in this particular case, the offensive lineman was really the hero of the play. Dickerson was what created all of this opportunity and the game.
It's not just about hitting that initial block, but it's about sustaining your block as well. And I think Landon did that.
Yeah, when we started to look at what was the expected yards for this play, it was about 4. But as Dickerson got to his block and held that block, every second, the expected yards increased. And so it was really his effort that changed the outcome.
So you're telling me that Sumer AI can predict the expected yards for each play?
We can predict expected yards based on who is open, who's covering you, how far away are they, how fast are they going, and how long are you holding these very strong people to create that space and maintain it.
That incredible Saquon hurdle it's about Saquon, but it's also about his incredible offensive line as well.
Yeah, we've seen Saquon on other teams, and he hasn't performed exactly the same. But it's because of the people around him, the linemen, as you mentioned, that make that key difference.
I love that Sumer AI is giving love to the big boys. They deserve it.
They totally deserve it because they put in so much hard work to really get that ball moving ahead, and it's them creating the opportunity to let other people shine.
Yes, ma'am. It is my distinct honor to welcome to The Evaluation a very special guest. This man is a 12-year NFL veteran and is widely considered one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game. Please welcome to the show Pro Football Hall of Famer, Marshall Faulk. Marshall, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. How's it going?
Very good, very good. I think of you as being one of the elite pass-catching running backs to ever play the game. Was that something that was just instinctual for you or something that you had to work on and develop?
When you get introduced to the game of football, most people get introduced to the game of football the same way. Someone throws the ball to you, you catch it, you throw it back. How do you not know how to catch? You never get introduced to the game of football without playing pitch and catch. So I never understood not knowing how to catch. I introduced my daughters to the game of football like that.
So you spent a lot of time as an analyst on television. Also, you were the running backs coach at Colorado, but now you are the head football coach for the Southern Jaguars. Was being able to help mold young athletes something that was very important to you?
It is, and getting the chance to do it in the facet that I was working at Colorado really showed me the impact that I could have. And I literally forgot how much at that stage coaching helped me grow. And with so much knowledge and so much information, I was like, man, I have to do this on a bigger scale in the sense of having my own team.
Being able to coach at an HBCU, is that something that meant a lot to you?
Without a doubt. I get to come to a place that's rich in history of developing young men that look like myself, providing an opportunity for us. And coming here, I just remember, it's so funny being on this campus again. This is exactly one of the places that when I was a kid inspired me to dream. Going to college is something that I wanted to do coming from the Ninth Ward in New Orleans. You don't have much to inspire you, but being at a school like this, I remember what it did for me, and I want to provide that opportunity for so many others.
And do you have any difficulty with running backs who might not have the natural gifts that you have? Because obviously that's rarefied air. How do you help mold athletes who don't necessarily have that Hall of Fame skill set?
You know, Tony Dungy gave me the best information possible being in this space. He said, Marshall, here's what you have to learn how to do. You have to learn how to coach a kid to their potential. It's not about your potential or your knowledge or your skill set, but coach them based on their skill set. He said, if you can do that, you'll be a hell of a coach.
And going back to your time in high school, how did you make it all the way from New Orleans to San Diego State?
Here's what I can guarantee you. It wasn't no NIL. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, they didn't have the position called athlete. And soon after me, they realized how wrong they were. Back in the day, you had to play a position, and they had to identify you as a position. And recruiters, they always wanted to label you. On defense, I traveled with the best receiver. On offense, I played quarterback, running back, receiver, and it was kind of hard to evaluate me. So the lazy guy was like, just put him at corner, that's it. A guy named Curtis Johnson, who was recruiting New Orleans at the time for San Diego State, was literally there to see a receiver, and he watched me play against the receiver, and he watched me on offense, and they offered me an opportunity to play running back. And when I got it, I literally, no pun intended, I ran with it.
I love that. Can you talk a bit about the pre-draft process for you? Do you remember what it was like, getting ready for the draft and that preparation and that process?
The draft is a life-changing moment. Hearing my name called as the second pick. I am and will forever be so indebted to the Indianapolis Colts, betting on me, taking a chance on me. That feeling will never, ever go away. And every year around the draft, I watch it just because these kids, I know the feeling. What a remarkable moment it was for me in my time.
And how was that transition from San Diego State to the league? Was that difficult for you? Was it seamless?
It was difficult. You go to the NFL and you immediately you figure out it's a business. At 21, you're navigating and realizing I stepped in a huddle. I remember Kurt Loudermilk, my old center, with a dip in his mouth. He said to me, they call me Scooter. Scooter, you hold on to that football. Everybody's goals and dreams is in that football. Meanwhile, he's in the third year of a 4-year deal, and he needs me to run with the football well so he can get paid. Everybody had a vested interest, not just for the team to win, but this is how they take care of their families. I got to conduct myself like a businessman. I got to show up when I'm supposed to. I got to stay late even when they don't think I am. I got to show up early. I got to do all the things.
I'm wondering, is there a running back in college right now? Is there someone that you're a big fan of their game or someone you see coming up?
Jeremiyah Love, this kid is dynamic. When his team needs it the most, Jeremiyah Love has been one of the more explosive running backs I'm talking about today playing. And what I love about the position of running back is we come in all shapes and sizes. There's so many ways to get it done. And whether you love a power back, a scat back, a finesse back, a cutback back, whatever it is, you can get us.
Was there something about your training process, whether it's in the gym or on the practice field, that you think helped separate you? Were there certain little secrets or tidbits in your training process that allowed you to be the best running back you could be?
I work with a guy named Bob Kersey, and Bob Kersey challenged me in the way he put me through a lot of explosive track workouts, but he never allowed me to just run in a straight line. Physical bodies on the field when I was running with pads, boom, knocking me off my pad when I'm trying to run a 40, I'm trying to run a 30. That's what football is.
One of the things, unfortunately, that we've seen, I think of Rudy Johnson, who unfortunately passed away too soon. And I'm sure you've seen some of your NFL brethren who have struggled with their mental health. Is some of that just transitioning and finding purpose coming out of football? And are you having conversations with your NFL brethren about mental health and life after football?
It's a tough conversation to just open up and have. What we do is we just do wellness checks. We call them, we check in. Hey man, how you doing? Everything okay? You feeling all right? Making sure, and we check on our brethren, man, because it's a real thing. Whether it's the mental health, whether it's CTE, whatever the trauma, whatever experience that a lot of players had with their head in the game, we want to check on them because the worst thing, and I remember this, the day before Junior Seau passed away, I was at his sports bar. We were sitting down watching football. We were talking, and at no point in time did I know. But what pissed me off the most was at no part in time did I check. I didn't ask, hey, Junior, you okay? Because he did such a great job. And if you knew Junior, hey, buddy, what's up? He always checked on everybody. And since then, I'm calling my guys, checking on them. We have a group chat of the Rams who won the Super Bowl, 99-2000 season. We got about 45 guys on there, and we're always checking on each other. It's just a must that we remain our brothers' keepers in this. That brotherhood is everything.
And Marshall, now you're in a position where you're looking at high school players to play for you at Southern. If you're talking to high schoolers right now, is there one particular trait that you think is most important for young players?
I'm going to say the love for the game. When you love the game, you're going to make the sacrifices and do the things for the team that's necessary because it's the ultimate team sport.
Marshall, can't thank you enough for this. Congratulations once again on the Southern job, but thank you for joining us here on the evaluation.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Running backs are forced to do more and more in the modern football era. With that being said, they still seem to be devalued. This is Stats in the Shadows.
Running backs used to define eras in the NFL. But in the 2010s and 2020s, that's changed. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, all superstars, all let go by their original team in their prime. Why is that? Culprit 1, efficiency. On 1st and 10, about 54% of passes succeed as compared to about 40% of runs. That's a massive gap. Culprit 2, volatility. Rush yards over expected, a premium stat for backs, only correlates to performance in the next year at about a 29% clip. For reference, the premium stat for wide receivers, yards per route run, correlates at about a 62% clip. Also, only 11 backs since 2016 have had back-to-back seasons with the 90th percentile in carries more than once. Meanwhile, 32 wide receivers have had this occur with regards to receptions. It's almost triple the running back number. So, teams aren't investing like they used to. Since 2015, only 14 of 320 first-round picks have gone to running backs, and on the veteran side, the top paid back barely cracks the top 100 contracts in cap percentage. No position is valued less. So, if your team drafts a back in round 1, it can be expected to get you about 53 yards per game. But unless he's an all-pro and beats the odds in terms of longevity, you're overpaying. And that's why the position has been pushed to the shadows.
It is my pleasure to welcome to the round table SūmerSports' Lindsay Rhodes. Lindsay, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You guys ready for this round table?
I don't know. We'll see.
Then we will. So first up, there's a lot of variation when it comes to running back size. You have guys like Darren Sproles, who's had a lot of success in the NFL. Then you have these monsters, these tanks like Derrick Henry. Simply put, does size matter?
It does matter. I think there's compensating factors in the NFL. So if you don't have size, you have to have something else that compensates for that. You mentioned Darren Sproles, like he had extraordinary quickness and elusiveness, so he had something to complement his lack of size and power. But by and large, there will be more specialized roles that cater to the strengths of what they bring to the table.
I think it matters to the degree of what your team is looking for, but different teams use backs differently, and obviously in the way the modern game is, you need to have more than one that plays a lot of plays. You can have that big hammer, but you can also have the small diminutive back that they use in certain situations.
I'm curious to find out from you guys how you think evaluation has changed in recent years with teams being less likely to take an early running back or to pay a running back a lot of money. Do you have to maybe find like somebody who maybe fits a specific trait, but not all of the traits?
Right, good point, Lindsay. Well, the way football has evolved is we have become more specialized, especially in the backfield. You're going to detach them from the formation and run them as a slot receiver. You're going to run them on jets. And then, of course, in a gap scheme, you're going to want to run downhill and be physical. So there's a myriad of different roles that they play in the NFL. If somebody has multiple traits, naturally that's going to increase their value.
If I can get Bijan Robinson any day of the week, I'm not going to worry about those specialty factors. You know, if I can get Christian McCaffrey, I'm not going to worry about that. But most teams aren't in that situation. The special players are going to be the special players no matter what, and you keep those guys on the field the most. When you're looking for players, and then you look in the college game, the way that the spread offenses have evolved, it's filtered into the pro game to where you're starting to look for more specific position qualities.
But part of the positional value conversation that you're having is when you go take a Bijan Robinson, number 8, what are you passing up?
There is an opportunity cost. I think that's what you're getting at, Lindsay, is if you take a back high, I have them graded at the same level, and there's an offensive left tackle, and there's a tight end, and there's a running back, and there's a receiver. They have to have special traits across the board in order for you to make that decision, because there are alternatives out there. There are backs that will offer different traits to you. That holds true as well in the NFL. You can find them in free agency. I don't want to diminish it, If a special player is special, he will be picked highly, but there is an opportunity cost for that. And you got to make sure, it really depends on the maturation of your roster.
There are guys that are legit backs who are on the field a ton who came out of the later rounds, which is also part of this conversation. You've got examples like Kyron Williams, who's drafted in the 5th round, and Bucky Irving, who's drafted in the 4th round. Jalen Warren was the guy for the Steelers this year, undrafted. Kyle Monongai was part of a dual backfield there in Chicago, played a big role for them down the stretch and in the playoffs. He was a 7th round running back. Like, these guys come out of the later rounds quite, I don't want to say consistently, but you can find them. How does that happen from an evaluation standpoint?
I think a lot of that, one, ties into the systems that players are playing in college. You know, again, with the spread offenses and the RPOs, they're not necessarily doing the things that you look for in the pro system all the time. And so sometimes you have to dig a little deeper on what their overall abilities are to figure out whether they can or cannot play in a particular system. I think a lot of running back position coaches are also looking for specific things. Those players will have traits that remind them of something that they've seen before, and they go, I can get this guy to do what we need him to do. But you have to dig deep because there's a lot of productivity in the college system overall. There should be a lot of running backs still sitting around later in the overall draft.
And how much does a variety of skills matter as a running back? Would you take a guy like a Christian McCaffrey who can catch the ball out of the backfield? Is that what you're looking for? Or is it okay to take a big back who just primarily gets it done on the ground?
The more they can do, easier it makes for you to incorporate them into your offense and for staying power, quite frankly.
That also goes to checking the boxes of what they are as a player. You know, the special ones, you know that they can do a lot of things for you, but those hidden gems, you know, you sometimes have to find out what they can actually do.
But maybe you're a team that's just looking for, there's one bucket of the best running back overall. There's one bucket and separate ranking maybe of the best pass catching backs. Who's the best zone rushing running back, right? Like, if you know this is the type of scheme that we're gonna put our running back in, the guy that might be best for that might not be the best running back overall, but he might be your best running back.
I think that's where analytics comes into play a lot. Once you get to the finite parts of the position, that's where you can dig out, because of their stats, that guy that might have been underneath the A starter or the B starter per se, because there's a lot of, you know, number 3 backs like Emmett Johnson who suddenly become the guy.
The problem with the analytics with the running back position is, unfortunately, this is a tough one to actually use numbers for, because what we found is that there are very few sticky stats with regards to running backs, because running backs are so highly dependent on their environment. Which of the stats are because the running back was very, very good in this situation, and which was because the offensive line was incredible. And so you can look at various numbers. What we found is that there's a very low correlation for a lot of these different stats from one running back's numbers in year A going to year B, going to year C. So I think we've seen that recently with Devon Achane, who in 2024 was very, very productive in the passing game, but his efficiency numbers were not good. Flip to 2025, all of his rushing numbers are through the roof. Like, how do you discern these differences at this specific position?
Yeah, I think that's the art of what Sumer brings to the table, is not only the statistics and the numerical analysis, the data analysis, but it's the professional subjective opinions. And if you really pay attention and study the player, regardless of the scheme, regardless of his production sometimes, he will reveal to you who he is. You can't ignore the fact that if he's behind a massive offensive line, he's a gap runner and he's very productive that way, or they're going to spread it out and he's going to catch 50 balls. You can't ignore that. But at the same rate, you have to dive a little bit deeper in the scouting realm and really just dissect what does he bring to the table so that I can parlay that into any scheme.
A lot of college teams historically aren't very good, but they might have a lot of talented players. And so as you dig in a little bit deeper and actually watch what that player's skill set is, if you're on a bad team, sometimes a 1-yard gain is a good play.
Especially if it's 3rd and 1.
We're right around the corner from pro days, from the combine. How much weight do you give testing metrics? Are there any metrics when it comes to running backs that you really lean into?
You may see play speed, but then he doesn't run quite as fast, but you lean back on the play speed, or vice versa. He may be a workout wonder, and he runs a time that catches everyone's eye. Eventually, you have to go back to the tape.
We just launched for the playoffs this year a new product called Sumer Live, which is turning insights from essentially like charting every play and turning that data point around before the next play even happens. I mean, the speed with which it's happening is just insane. It gives you a lot of different ways to look into the things that you're talking about. And so you can look at gap usage and then also the efficiency through each gap. Now, if you put that together for the duration of a season, some of these numbers can really start to tell a story.
The college game is such a varied game from the pro game that you almost have to find that median point that you use to evaluate it all, because you're dealing with so many different levels of players, but you're also dealing with so many different offenses in college as opposed to the pro game. So there's a lot of things that have to get brought down to the finite level, but I don't disagree with you. It's a rapidly evolving measure.
You've all had a lot of brushes with greatness over the years. Do you have any personal stories of a player that you were dead set, you knew he was gonna be great, or someone that you took a leap on, someone who panned out and you were right all along that you ended up evaluating early in the process?
Well, I'm not going to say me, it was we, and you can relate to this because you're from Tampa, right?
Yes, sir.
And we had a pretty good team back in the day when we started to get competitive and eventually won one. There was this little guy out of FSU that everyone was concerned about his size. You know, when you watched work done play and you see his physique, he had very strong hips and lower body. So this guy can run inside. We were a power O team, if you recall, right? Yep. We ended up taking him, performed pretty well for us.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he did. Yeah. So, Jeff, I believe you have a story that involves Tom Brady and a janitor?
So, I go to Michigan to scout Michigan the year after they win the national championship. I would go around and try to talk to as many people as possible. And usually the one guy that I always tried to talk to was the custodian, because right or wrong, they knew everything going on in the building. Lo and behold, I walked by the custodian. And I said, hey, how you doing? You know, I had donuts. Bribery will get you a lot of places in that building. So he starts to tell me about all of these guys on their team. And I said, well, anybody else? And he goes, you might want to keep an eye on the quarterback. So I'm like, Drew Henson. And he's like, no, the next guy, Brady. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, watch Brady. He said he's only going to play on third downs, but keep an eye on him because he always makes something happen. He's like, I don't know if he can play or not, but everybody talks about Tom Brady. And so lo and behold, they're playing Notre Dame. And of course, he comes in and he's Tom Brady. So I'm like, I owe him some more donuts.
So, Lindsay, we talk a lot about the expansion of the role of the running back. It's not like it was several years ago. I feel like a lot is being asked of running backs.
Yeah, this is a position whose responsibilities have changed a little bit over the years. And for more on some of the ways that this position has evolved, here's Scheme Shift.
What does it take to play running back in today's NFL? You need to have vision through inside of the line. You need the acceleration and speed to attack on the outside, and you need the athletic ability to break tackles in the open field. But playing running back is about so much more than just running the ball. On third downs, defenses are forcing running backs into pass protection by sending rushers from the second level. Linebackers fire through the middle while defensive ends drop into coverage. And with the offensive line blocking the defensive line, we are seeing more one-on-ones between blitzing backers and blocking backs. And if the linebacker isn't going, then you better peek at that nickel corner before getting out into your route. All-around running backs can run the ball, help out in pass protection, and be legitimate threats through the air. But defenses will do their best to turn them into pass blockers instead of pass catchers. Today's running backs have more on their plate than ever, with all of the ways that defensive coordinators are designing pressure to test their odds. Looking for the next 3-down running back in round 1? You may need to look to multiple players to fill that role later in the draft.
Thank you to our Sumer team. Thank you, Marshall Faulk. And remember, draft night is loud, evaluations are quiet, and we live in the quiet. Until next time.